Welcome, light students, and anybody who's really suffering any physical aberrations, disharmony, disease. I'm just going to briefly summarize what we've been through. Um, I'm going to do the video on triglycerides. I haven't done it mainly because it's complicated and I need to be able to simplify it. So when I get the codec or the key to be able to simplify it, I'll put it up. So let's talk about what we've been through thus now. Number one, all mental, emotional, physical disease has its roots in dysfunctional patterns of thinking and repressed emotions, suppressed denial, and all the rest of the defense mechanisms that go to keep emotions that we don't want to have to deal with down below the surface. But we know through the use of psychotherapy and self-awareness, it's a biggie here, self-awareness, that we can go deep dive, clean up the mess from the past, develop an emotional management system, and begin to level up. Think of this game of life as a holographic video game with your synergy bar or energy bar on the upper left, and it has to be at max. And when it goes back a little bit, you top it back off. It goes back, you top it back off, back to max. It goes back, you top it back off. And I'll talk about other things that may, give your synergy bar a little hit. So, again, cleaning up the mess from the past is big. The emotionality versus the appropriate emotional responses to situations is big. Because if you have buttons to push, the systems will use those buttons against you. Your own family can use it against you. Your own friends can use it against you. And certainly your enemies. But in general, it is the system, the secondary matrix, that will take your trauma, yet revealed, unhealed, and use it as a weapon of mass destruction against you. And if you don't clean it up, you're always going to have that energy leak. And once your synergy bar or your energy cell gets to a certain level, this is where disease begins to show up. So you don't want energy leakages. You want to plug up those energy leakages. Next was, we must drink copious amounts. I didn't say go crazy, but copious amounts of the highest quality of water that we can currently afford or get. For me, it is distilled water with a distiller. Those distillers cost $600. This may not be in everybody's budget. I understand that. They have a few good ones too, for about $300 or $400. Either way, that's the best. If you wanted to do a whole home filtration system, then you would get a reverse osmosis system. I didn't talk about that because as far as just drinking water is concerned, distilled water is number one. And reverse osmosis water is very good, very clean, but it's more for doing large amounts of water. So like a whole home system that you want your water filtered, that would be the filtration type of system that I would recommend. Of course, detoxification. That means that your body is eliminating toxins. We do that mainly through the kidneys in the form of urine and mainly through the colon as bowel movement. So we need to have the appropriate amount of waste elimination. Otherwise, that builds up. I talk about parasitic removal. And if you never deparasitized yourself, consider yourself full of parasites. It's just the way it is. Deparasitize. I talked about it in a video about what to use. The ivermectin, the pure gum spirits of turpentine, but y'all think it's a joke, right? Something you don't have to do. Everybody has to do it, and it has to be a continuous process. So, what else? Nutrition. Real food, not stuff where you have to pick it up in a can with ingredients, pick it up in plastic with ingredients, an ingredient list that's huge, that doesn't have artificial coloring, artificial flavors, artificial anything, stabilizers, and um, just things that increase shelf life. Now brings me to another huge offender: hydrogenated vegetable oils that sit on the shelf at your grocery store are not to be touched. It's up to you, right? Some of y'all argue with me about that, and you know better, and you can get olive oil. I just bought some olive oil the other day. It was $40-something. And then when I really put it to the test, I'm like, it's not olive oil. This is olive oil that's cut with something. I mean, it'll do, but Jesus, it's hard to get real olive oil. It's hard to get real avocado oil because everybody wants it. Anyway, you're better off cooking in animal fats, beef tallow, pork fat, beef, bacon fat, those type of things, because they don't turn rancid as fast, and they can handle high heat. Although you more than likely should not be cooking on high heat. You're cooking on medium to low heat for the most part. Anyway, so, and then the biggie, because this is the thing that affects your insulin and insulin levels, and chronically elevated insulin levels is the kiss of death. And I've talked about it. I'm not going into the who, what, where, and when, and why right now. And that would be your sugar and sugar addiction and carbohydrates. And when I say carbohydrates, it's a huge class of things. So I'm not talking about all carbohydrates. I'm talking about the sweet carbohydrates in the form of most of your fruits. There are some exceptions, like lemons and limes and some of the berries, but you just have to be careful, especially if you got a problem and you're working on the problem. I would just say no fruits except maybe lemon and lime. But Paleo Man did eat some berries because they're low on the glycemic scale, i.e., low on the sugar scale. But sugar and the type of carbohydrates I'm talking about are starchy carbohydrates, like rice, like grains, like bread, like wheat, like corn, any grain. It's sugar. It's just branch chain sugar. So starch is nothing but sugar, but it's connected up, so it becomes a complex sugar. It gets broken down into what? Glucose and fructose. And if you're drinking milk, then you have an added sugar called galactose. This is where you get your your lactose intolerance from. It's from the sugar galactose. But most of the milk is not even fit for drinking today because of the way they raise the cows, the amount of antibiotics. Did you know that a cow, because they're not being fed the genetically appropriate diet, which is grass, they feed them cornmeals and all the kinds of grains that will make them sick eventually. And then they hold up, oh, look at the marbling on the steak. No, that's from a sick cow. Marbling shouldn't be there. And they make you think that the very thing that shows that the cow is sick, that we want it. No, we don't want sick cows. We want healthy cows that go to slaughter. In order to successfully in these big commercial farms bring a cow to slaughter, they have 6 months. Because after 6 months, that cow is sicker than hell and then unfit for slaughter. So you have from birth, the birth of a calf, to 6 months to get that cow ready. If you're not going to feed it its superior, genetically intended diet of grass. And then they add antibiotics, which increase the fattiness of the cow, and hormones and other things, just to keep the cow alive long enough so it can go to slaughter. That is why 80 to 85% of the time, you can't be perfect with this, but I get, especially at my house, it's 100% of the time, grass-fed and grass-finished beef and heritage-raised pork, which means they let the pork, they control the diet very well. Otherwise, a pig will eat anything. And then chickens, certainly not your mass-produced chickens. Now they have a thing called free range, which means nothing. Pasture-raised organic. That is it. Pasture-raised means they're actually out in the field running around, eating their natural diets. Of course, they get the diet from the farm. But so you have to pay attention. But man, the biggest one for you guys is sugar and starchy carbohydrates, which is sugar. Your sugar and processed foods, obviously. Processed drinks. It's all sugar, even fake sugar. Stay properly hydrated. Get sunlight. Get your bare feet on the ground in nature so that you can retune your body, because nature's looking to retune through this complex, right? Through the outer chiasma, the pineal gland, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland. It's been known about, not for just hundreds of years, but for thousands of years. And then you're able to use your newly developed or constantly evolving emotional management system, and then you're ready to begin that path of increasing your internal energy, like blowing up a balloon, keeping that synergy bar topped off. And this is where the practices, breathing, yoga, pranayama, qigong, even tai chi. But remember, tai chi and some of these other practices, they're spinoffs from the original. And I just say, why not just go to the original? It's not like Tai Chi. You can use Tai Chi. Tai Chi is an energy mover. It's not an energy generator. So you want to be able to move energy and generate energy at all times. So Tai Chi is a watered down energy practice. Is it bad? No. Hell, any energy practice is better than none. And I would bet to say that most of you are not doing any type of energy practice. I did leave a little something about chanting. That's probably the next thing I'll do is about chanting low energy frequencies, i.e. bass frequencies, rhythmic chanting, because sitting there going, yeah, it becomes tiring after a while and nobody's going to do it long term. We got to have something that's enjoyable, fun, and sustainable. So it's low energy frequency chanting. We'll talk about how to do it properly. I'll give an example. And that's it for now. That's what we've covered. But the biggie was that hyperinsulinemia and those blood sugars and the effect that all of that has on your liver. And I brought up the term non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Also remember, you don't drink alcohol either. Why? What is alcohol? It's fermented sugar. So it's sugar. And it has to go where? Directly to the liver. So you're putting unnecessary pressure on the liver. You're killing. Alcohol's an antibiotic. So you're putting unnecessary. So is sugar, by the way. Did you know you could use sugar to kill bacteria? Back in the day, they used to pack wounds with sugar, and it would kill everything off, increase the granulation, and promote the healing of exterior wounds. Just because it was so toxic, it killed all the germs and bacteria that were not meant to be there, so that your body could heal. Yeah, that's sugar. Sugar's an antibiotic. Sugar will disrupt your gut, good bacteria, or your gut biome. And sugar's the biggie that most of you are addicted to. And including me, at some point, I was addicted to sugar. But through self-awareness, through discipline, through practice, through understanding how devastating of a cascade sugar addiction leads you into, especially as it relates to your liver, your pancreas, and that hyperinsulinemia, which causes what? Everything. Inflammation all over the body, including your arterial walls, including coronary artery disease, including strokes, heart attacks, cancers, cellular growth proliferation out of control. And I tell you the two main fuels. So your body's always going to have glucose on board, regardless of whether or not you cut every bit of sugar out of your diet. Your body still has glucose. There's a process called gluconeogenesis. Your body will always maintain your blood sugar somewhere around 70 to 80. You start getting 90 to 100 to 120, yeah, you're getting pre-diabetic already. But the definitive test, everybody thinks the definitive test is the hemoglobin A1C. No, the definitive test is your fasting insulin level. And in some insurance companies won't pay for it, but they'll pay for a byproduct of insulin breakdown called C protein. I don't want to get too technical here, but it is those persistently spiking insulin levels, and after a while, the insulin resistance develops, and then the insulin no longer spikes; it just stays high. That's when you're really going to run into physical disease problems. So, this is the summary. No fake fat. Matter of fact, no fake anything. Real food. Real food. Flour isn't processed food because it's processed sugar. Gatorade and Powerade and energy drinks. That's not real food. And then a lot of you did not take my recommendation. I said, and I just came from Utah, and this is where this company is located. In the salt mines of Utah is Redmond's, Redmonds, real salt. Get it on Amazon, buy it in the 5-gallon containers, because you need copious amounts of salt. Despite what the system tells you, you need your salt. Freely salt your foods. I mean, you got more salt in your body than sugar by a long shot. You need sugar. Salt. Excuse me. uh, and the hotter it gets, and the more activity you do, you need more salt because your body's getting rid of the salt. There are athletes, uh, especially the football players who are playing 3 hours in the hot sun with all that equipment on. They take salt pills. I wonder why. And if I needed an energy drink, it certainly would not be Gatorade or any of those other kind of aids. I mean, if I really needed an energy drink, I probably would drink organic coconut water. Yes, it has sugar in it, but you're going to burn it right up. So I'm talking about as an in the game uh, energy drink. Yeah, I would use that because especially if you're playing these sports like basketball, these uh, highly aerobic sports where um, they really should be called anaerobic because you're outstripping your oxygen because you're moving so fast and burning up so much. I mean, a treadmill could be considered aerobic if you put it on low because it'll prefer ketones. So remember, your body prefers glucose and ketones. Glucose and ketones. Your mitochondria is the intracellular organism. Ism mitochondrial um, cell uh, powerhouse of the cell. It's actually called an organelle. So important. It has its own genetic material in it, and it will prefer glucose and ketones. Ketones coming from the breakdown of fats. For the most of us, it is preferable that ketones be our preferred energy source and glucose be the secondary. I've explained why. So that's it for right now. Get your water, keep your insulin levels low, clean up the emotional mess, ground, get your sunlight because sunlight is going to activate hormone D. It's misnamed vitamin D. It is not a vitamin at all. It is a hormone. It is a cholesterol-based hormone. Get your salt, get your real food, cooking animal fats, saturated animal fats. That's right. Eat plenty of eggs, by the way. I never mentioned eggs. Yeah, you can eat plenty of eggs. And cook it in saturated animal fats. You don't need a lot, but that's what you cook it in, and also that those because you're cooking in animal fats, you're cooking your meat in animal fats. Your body is going to start its conversion over to ketosis, i.e., using ketones as the primary energy source rather than glucose. All right, but yeah, your job is not to get your sugar levels to zero. You would die. Your body makes sure that your glucose levels stay around 80ish. Whether you take in sugar or not, it has mechanisms to convert fat to sugar and to convert protein to sugar if it needs to. So that's not the issue. The issue is keeping your liver correct, keeping your pancreas correct, keeping your insulin levels low. Because these high insulin levels, man, are really it is the crux. It is the culprit in about 90% of your chronic medical conditions. and even some of your acute medical conditions. Yeah. You have atrial fibrillation, yeah, you need salt, magnesium, potassium, but you need salt, but you won't eat salt. You need fat, but you won't eat fat because you're a vegetarian, right? You will crash and burn, and then when you call me as a vegetarian, crashed out, wigged out because you're going to have mental issues, since the brain is mostly fats and cholesterol that cannot be gotten from plants. Uh, and I'll put you on what? Liver. I'll put you on grass-fed, grass-finished liver. And in 2 days, you'll be right back to normal again. Amazing. So I not only talk about what I know pathophysiologically, uh, biochemical, the pathways, the biophysiology of it. I also have the practice of medicine, being a naturopath, being an herbalist, being a metaphysician, all under my belt. And that is an unusual combination. You don't see it often. And for most of you, you will never see it. So this is it. If you're watching me, you're watching something unusual in motion. And I suggest you pay attention. It's a lot of experience coming your way. And it don't cost a thing. Right? But it does cost you to pay the price, though. Right? There's a price to pay. So just go ahead and pay it. Be done with it. Later.